the line. Um, so first of all, we will do like a kind of like a game before our session. So if you go to the next slide, we for those who are in person, if you need our Wi-Fi password to connect for the game later. We have our restroom across this boardroom, and there's a kitchen if you need water and all that. If you go to next slide. I'm Sherry. Currently, Baltimore TUG, we have 3 leaders. Ryan is here with me. Prime is joining virtually today. If you like to be informed more about our events in the future, feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn. We do also have a group page on LinkedIn. Again, if you want to get more up-to-date information about our future event, feel free to join us. And we are exploring different ways to host the event. This is our first hybrid event in a while. So if you have any suggestion, feedback after today's session, feel free to share your thoughts in the LinkedIn group, or you can directly email me, and we want to make it better each time. I think I attend several other Tableau user group. I see people using like breakout room. These are nice formats. So again, we're exploring, and we're welcoming any type of feedback. So for the agenda today, we will be Tableau conference recap focused. So Varun will give us a high level of his experience, how he understands the Tableau kind of roadmap. Why are they releasing some of the new features, and what does it mean? And then we will have some food and drinks. We have like 15 minutes for in-person attendees a break, and then Ryan will share us some demo on one of the latest Viz extension features. So you get some kind of like a see how it in action. And then for those in person, we will have raffle giveaway. So that's the agenda for today. So we did design a game, test some of your knowledge regarding this year's Tableau conference. And we will be getting out gift cards for the top 3 winners. So if you'd like to be a part of this game, feel free to join. Either use the QR code or enter the code if you go to menti.com. For people in the room, we do have drinks over there on the refrigerator if you need to grab.
Okay. It's a fun quiz, so it's just to educate.
There are some challenging questions.
But yes.
Probably get started.
Perfect. So moving on to the slide. So the quiz is about to begin. Please enter your full name. We have 3 gift cards for the top 3 winners. So after the leaderboard, whoever name is there on the leaderboard, please write your email addresses in the comments so that we can send out the gift cards. Okay, I think we can get started. All right. So faster you answer, will get more points. So where was the Tableau conference 2024 held? Three options are Los Angeles, Las Vegas, or San Diego. All right. So this year it was held in San Diego, and also next year it's going to be held in San Diego. And last year it was held in Las Vegas. Moving on to the next question. Start the next question. Who was the winner of the Iron Fist 2024? The options are Chris Wesley, Lisa Trescott, and Paul Ross. Correct answer is Chris Wesley. The main theme around the Viz was love for food and hunger for change. Since global hunger is such a big topic and there was a lot of reliable data around it, he thought he could create a Viz to make people aware about this topic and to know that hope isn't lost. Since we have made so much progress in the last 20 years, and we can continue to make progress by taking action on inequality. So that was the theme around this Viz.
It's a Power BI guy joining.
That's Srini, I guess. Moving on to the next question.
Guess he's paying attention.
All right. What is the major feature introduced in Tableau 2024.1, which was introduced in February this year? Three options are Tableau GPT, Ask Data, or Tableau Pulse. And the answer is Tableau Pulse. It was released in February 2024 for all the Tableau Cloud customers. It is used to deliver tailored business performance metrics and actionable insights directly to Slack and email. Also provides automated analytics in plain language and anticipation such as user questions based on the Viz and the dashboards you have created.
Looks like the goat's winning.
So moving on to the next question. What is the primary function of Tableau Pulse in Tableau 24.1? Is it to automate data preparation tasks, to enhance data visualization with AI generated insights, or to create interactive dashboards? And the correct answer is to enhance data visualizations with AI generated insights. Right, moving on to the next question. What is the new data storage capacity in Tableau Cloud 2024.1, excluding the enterprise customers?
How many?
Sorry. 1 TB, 5 TB, or 10 TB? is 1 TB. This version includes like 1 TB of data storage for all the Tableau cloud sites, and for all the enterprise customers, it's expanded to 5 TB. Moving on to the next question. What new feature in Tableau 2024.1 enhances accessibility for exploring text tables? Is it metric bootstrapping, with navigation for text tables, or Tableau Pulse? The answer is with navigation for text tables. It was introduced on this new version of Tableau, which enables keyboard shortcuts navigation and assistive technology support for people with disabilities. Next question. What is the function of the Tableau Pulse metrics layer? Is it to manage user permissions, to automate data visualization, or to provide a standard definition of data metrics? The answer is to provide a standard definition of data metrics. Let's leave it now. All right. Which Tableau feature uses AI to help create calculated calculations through natural language prompts? Is it Einstein Copilot for Tableau, Tableau Flow, or Tableau Catalog? Answer is Einstein Copilot for Tableau. It is a AI-driven assistant that helps users analyze and visualize data by providing insights and recommendations directly within Tableau. Question. What type of analysis does the sentiment analysis feature in the newer version of Tableau perform? Is it text data analysis, predictive modeling, or spatial analysis? The answer is text data analysis. So basically, sentiment analysis is the process of identifying emotions in text, and that's what it does. And moving on to the last question. Which Tableau feature was highlighted for providing detailed summaries using metadata and field names? Is it VisQL API, Einstein Copilot, or Tableau Catalog? And the answer is Tableau Catalog. It's the feature within Tableau that provides a comprehensive and unified view of your organization's data assets. It helps users to discover and understand the data available to them. That's the end of the quiz. The leaderboard is with
Whoa.
and whoever is top three, please could you send your email addresses in the chat so that we can give out the gift cards. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. And make sure you take a screenshot of like your points and your email address. The email address will be how we send the gift card to you.
Screenshot my name.
It's going to be sent straight to Tableau headquarters.
Oh, God. I'm gonna get banned again.
Okay, so let's do our first session. Let's do the Tableau conference recap. And Varun will be presenting his screen.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, I
You can-
will be.
yeah.
Yes.
Sherry is giving you a sneak peek of the presentation. Okay, so welcome everybody. This year was the first time when I attended the Tableau conference. I'm pretty much like astonished with the way they can organize the whole session. There were close to 9,000 people who attended the conference there. A real good organization overall with respect to the apps that they had that spoke about all the different events that you can go to. In those apps as well, they have each session that they had replicated those as well. They got some feedback saying that, hey, we couldn't attend some of the sessions there. So they made sure they replicated those sessions so that folks could go ahead and attend the next day as well. So overall, super happy with the way they organized the whole event. I didn't see any queues, any kiosks out there. Real good participation by the volunteers, very proactive as to, hey, if there's anybody who's stuck or doesn't know who's attending the conference for the first time, pretty much 90% of the people who were folks who were attending conference for the first time. So imagine they don't know about anything, and it was so easy for them to just go around and get to all the sessions that they need. What do they need to attend? They had their super friendly app to select what their favorite sessions were. So super easy for them to go ahead and enjoy the whole conference there. And Tableau has been learning a lot over all these years, where they have been going about with this conference, and they have learned a lot of stuff from the whole community. So really nice experience there. Let's go into the overall agenda. So I'll talk about a little bit more about my introduction, get into the different waves of data analytics for everyone, the different partnerships that Tableau is working on, and then get into the plugins as well as the extensions. And then at the end, I have some time that where we can go over the Q&A as well. So I would suggest hold on to your questions till the end. There's a lot of stuff that I need to cover, and then we'll have some time to go over the questions as well. Overall, about me, I'm with Blend 360 for a couple of years now. I'm senior manager BI. I've done my bachelor's and master's in computer science back in India, and then I did another master's here in the US from UT Dallas for information technology and management, majoring in data analytics and BI. Overall, around 10 years of experience in data analytics field, with specializing in industries like retail, telecom, healthcare, as well as finance. So the Tableau conference overall, revolved around the different waves. When I talk about waves, how many of you guys surf? No one? If you answer, you get some giveaways from here. Oh, Mike surfs? Okay. So I would say naturally, all of us have been surfing. We've been in different waves. We'll dig deeper into each of these waves. But the data analytics waves that we've had is wave one was full service, wave two was self-service, wave three, which we are in right now, is the personalization wave. Let's dig deeper into what was the first wave like. So the first wave started off with more of generating insights, and it required coding. So you started off with getting an email, getting to a meeting room with your end client or end stakeholders, and there was a discussion on, hey, what type of a report what type of a dashboard do I want? All of that was communicated. There was back and forth going on. You went ahead and then looked at your warehouse, pulled all of your data from there, created your dashboard, and then went back to your end client or stakeholder saying that, hey, I have this dashboard ready. And then there is something or the other that the client wants to change, something or the other that so it's a very frustrating process. So then that's where Tableau came in with the wave 2. So when you go to wave 2, this is where they came up with more of self-service. So you have the option to go ahead and drag and drop, pick up your dimensions, pick up your measures, and drag and drop and create your dashboards the way you want. So it was more of a self-service revolution that Tableau created. You could ask questions about your data, get answers from there. So Tableau helped overall with this second wave here. But there were still some things that were um, still left open. So that's where Tableau came out with something called as the Wave 3, where they started getting you different features that can help you with predictive analytics, generative AI, on the phone. So you had just the app before, or you just had the desktop before. Now it was available on app as well. So what are the different features that Tableau actually went ahead and provided there? So starting 2013, they got into Tableau Mobile. They came up with Tableau Cloud. 2022, they came to Data Cloud, where you can handle unstructured as well as structured data. And then now they are into Tableau Pulse, Einstein Copilot for Tableau. So this was more of data analytics for everyone. This is where any analyst to all the way up to CTO could go ahead and look into Tableau and find answers that they really wanted. So in the past 12 months, Tableau has come up with close to 140 plus different features, and that's how they have been operating across different products that they have, just server, cloud, as well as desktop. Some of the features that they have, they're already in production. Some are in beta phase, and next update, that is 24.2, and then so on as well. So there is a lot of stuff coming in from Tableau as well. So some of the features that they have been talking about, or that's where the AI features come in, is Tableau Pulse, as well as Einstein Copilot for Tableau. Tableau Pulse is already in GA. There are folks who are already using Tableau Pulse. And then Einstein Copilot is something that's in beta phase right now. So you can go ahead and sign up. They're encouraging you to sign up for Einstein Copilot so that they can learn. So they can learn from the community, and then they can make their data models even better. So let's dig deeper more into what is the new thing that Tableau Pulse is providing. Overall, Tableau Pulse is getting more and more into. So if you look at the screen on the right, it talks about the top generated summaries that comes from your dashboard with changes as well. So if there's any metric that has changed, it will show up on the top there. All the different metrics that you have followed with their trends, as well as with any anomalies out there, that is something that Tableau Pulse is showing you. Also, it gives you suggestions for questions as to what type of questions can you actually ask your data. Gives you the ability to filter, drill down capability as well as the option to share your insights on Slack as well as Teams. So that is something that Pulse is providing. Additionally, you can set up goals. This is something that was not there in Tableau before. There is something called as Tableau goals, so that you can track your progress based on that goal as well. Also, another feature that Tableau Pulse has is Ask, where you can actually ask your questions and get answers from the data as well. Around 3,000 customers live as of right now, and they are increasing. Talking about Einstein Copilot, it's like ChatGPT in your desktop app. as we move towards conversational analysis or conversational AI, this is where Tableau came up with something called as Einstein Copilot that gives you the option to actually interact with your data. So as soon as your data is plugged into the Tableau report, there are suggestions on questions coming as to, hey, what type of questions can you go ahead and ask your data? There's an option to create calculations where it prompts as to what type of calculations can you easily create. There's a smart way of going about with calculations as well. And also you can ask your questions in natural language. Another thing that Tableau is doing on the back end is all these LLM models that are running on the back end. You need some place or some way of making sure there is security compliance, there's privacy about your data. So that's where Einstein Trust Layer. So they are partnering up with Salesforce, and this is where Einstein Trust Layer comes in with all their security as well as compliance. So none of your data is shared outside your Tableau report. There is zero retention policy that they came up with as well. And this gives you that confidence as to, hey, none of your data will be used to train any other LLM models that are there in the market right now. So talking about your backend, so we spoke about everything on the front end, but Tableau is working closely with Salesforce to introduce something called as Hyperforce. So this is where you have your data residency, security, agility, scalability, as well as privacy for the data. Close to 16 pods all over the world is something that Tableau aims for. And by the end of this year, there'll be 2 pods, one in Germany as well as one in Singapore. So talking about the cloud data, so you have the option for a single view of trusted data that you can quickly look at. You can query billions of records at a hyperscale, leverage deep integration as well. So if you see on an average, they're looking at 2.4 trillion records on an average being processed per month by Data Cloud. And for all of this, you need to have real good partners. So this is where their partnership with Databricks comes in. You have the option on single select. On just a click of a button, you can go ahead and connect to Databricks. Also, it gives you the built-in write back feature where you can go ahead and write back data into your tables as well, and at scalability as well. So that is something that the partnership with Databricks provides. Another partnership that they're working with is the partnership with Microsoft. So this is where you have all your insights that are coming from Pulse can be shared in your teams. So this is where any insight that's coming in can be easily circulated across the organization or across your group, and there can be immediate actions that can be taken over that. Also, it gives you the ability to streamline data analysis and unlock the value of Microsoft Fabric as well. So other Wiz extensions, other features that Tableau is talking about, or these are the things that Tableau has come up with as well. Wiz extensions. So you have the option to create, for example, a sand key chart. That is something that earlier took a lot of programming on the back end. Sand key can be created in just 3 clicks. So this is something that Tableau is coming up with. Another extension that or plugin that they have is a Figma to Tableau plugin. So Figma is a tool that you can use for your wireframing, where you can create like a wireframe before you start creating a dashboard. So now what Tableau gives you the option is use the Tableau Figma plugin, and you can pull in your wireframe from a Figma into Tableau, and you can have the whole wireframe built into Tableau as well. Super tables. You have your most favorite question asked by your stakeholders. So I'll just pause here. What's that question that always comes to mind? Excel. Exactly. So how do you download your data into Excel? Like how can I download my data into Excel? So that's where super tables comes in. So it's like Excel built into Tableau. You have the ability to add more number of columns to your dashboard. So earlier that was restricted to 50. So now you have more number of columns that can come in there. You have the option to filter out on each and every column. So there's an option on the top that helps you filter on each and every column there. You can create pivot tables. You can aggregate the data there. And also it gives you the option to tweak the data on the backend. So if there's any functionality any issue that you see on the work on that one and get the backend data updated there. Local file saving. So this is a way of Tableau giving back to the community as well. You have Tableau Public that's available, but now you have the option to download these reports and then use them locally. So you have something where you are working on your personal budgets at home. So this is where Tableau gives you the option to create those viz on your desktop without getting the Tableau desktop license, and then publish that to the server again, or publish that to the public site again. So this is something that Tableau came up with as well. I won't go in each of these as well. I'll just go through a few of them more. Power KPIs. If you're familiar with something called as dendrogram, it's one of the most difficult things that you can create in Tableau. It's more of a drill down feature that Tableau provides, where if you have a hierarchy, on clicks, you can actually drill down in each of these hierarchies and see what the insights are there. So this is something that Tableau's coming up with just on clicks. So you can go ahead and click on each of these hierarchies and drill down, and it also gives you a nice option to create a small viz around that sub hierarchy or the lower the level hierarchy that you are seeing there. So that is something that Tableau is coming up with. Google Fonts. So earlier, these fonts were not available in Tableau. So they're integrating that as well. There's something called as themes. So you can create, Tableau server has, say, for example, multiple reports that you have. There is a theme that comes in saying that the client or the stakeholder says that, hey, there's a particular theme that I want to make sure that all my reports are standardized. So how do you do that? So earlier, you had to manually go ahead and do it for each of these dashboards. So Tableau has come up with something called as themes, which actually helps you within clicks. You can have the same theme get replicated, and all your reports can be standardized. So that is something that Tableau is coming up with as well. So along with this, it doesn't help you like the wave 3. I spoke about all the different features that are there that are coming up with wave 3, but it doesn't help solve all the problems that are there. There are still some challenges that you face. Data is still fragmented, large data. That's something that you can still handle. Users don't trust the data or the insights that are coming from the data. With all these different LLM models that are running on the back end, it's super difficult to go ahead and trust your data or the insights that are coming from the data. Insights are often overlooked. So there is something that that you really found out from the data, but that's not shared or that's not looked at or there's no action taken on that. So that is something that is a challenge as well. And the last challenge that you face as well is you can't reuse what you have built. So you have all these different dashboards that you have created, or all these different assets or data sources that you have created, and there's no way to actually reuse those. So this is where Tableau came up with something called as Wave 4. So what does Wave 4 have? So Wave 4 is something where Tableau came up with real-time cloud scale data. So for example, you have a marketing analyst is looking at multiple different social media sites. And there is a lot of data coming from all these different sites in all different forms. So Tableau will have a workspace or a data lake on the back end, which will segregate all this information into separate chunks so that it's easily accessible for you and you can use that to get insights. Semantics for trusted insights. So additionally, it's going to prompt you as to, hey, what are the different measures? What are the different dimensions from that data? What are the different questions that you can ask that data? Additional insights where you work. So, actionable insights where you work. So this is where it comes up with, hey, what can I go ahead and do with all of that data? Is there anything that I can take immediate action on? So that is something that Tableau is working on as well. And then reusable and composable assets. So this is where when you go ahead and create your own layer on the back end. Tableau is planning to go ahead and use that. So you can go ahead and share that across the organization, saying that, hey, I already have these data sources available. You can go ahead and leverage that and you can use it. Another thing that they are trying to do is go ahead and market this as well. So you can have this data that can be marketable as well. So that is something that Tableau is coming up with as well. So this is the overall gist from the Tableau conference. This is what was my overall experience from the conference. I'll pause here for any questions that you have, and then we have. Do we have Karan as well on the call?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so we'll spend a couple of minutes on questions, and then Karan is going to talk a little bit more about his experience as well for the Tableau conference.
By the way, Karan is one of our past speakers. He attended the Tableau conference as well, is willing to share a few minutes of his own experience. How many people in the room also went this year? One.
1, 2, 5.
Oh.
Yeah.
Nice. Anyone has questions for Varun?
Any questions, anyone? Anyone on the call? Feel free to put it on the chat if that's something that you want to do as well.
What is your favorite feature among all?
I think super tables is something that really hits the ball out of the park. Something that all of us have a question where how do I download the data into Excel? Well, that's something that I've been struggling with convincing the client, saying, or my stakeholders saying that, hey, Tableau is a visualization tool. You got to use it as a visualization tool. You got to create different ways to get insights and find trends from the data. And then, but the question comes back as to, hey, how can I download the data into Excel? And this is where super tables is one of the best features that they are coming up with.
What do you think?
I think you did a great job, and in all candor, so I'm from Tableau. I'm Chris Bullock. I'm a director of solution engineering. I thought you did a great job of recapping it. And we're in a user group meeting, right? So we're all friends. So I'll cut the BS meter. I thought it was pretty straight and very good. A lot of the new features coming are things that are kind of already been there, but are getting a tune-up, a makeover, and a combination, like Salesforce database, scratch, data cloud.
Yep.
The Excel the Tableau to Excel stuff. There's been elements of that there for a long time. Like you can literally copy and paste back and forth in a way that, frankly, I never knew until I saw some fancy person do it. But it's exciting. But so I was there. I was a Tableau doctor. So that was humbling because, at my age, I'm like, yeah, I don't know stuff. I know some stuff. I don't know stuff. And I got some questions that totally stumped me. And I got questions that I felt like, oh yeah, you can just do this. And I'm like, yeah, I earned my place here, but no, it was a lot of fun. I encourage you all to go if you can. I certainly support what you're doing. And by the way, we can take it when you don't like something too. We like to know, we want to make sure we're doing the right things. So.
Was there a Tableau doctor session this year?
Yeah, so Tableau Doctor is where there's just a bunch of people sitting in doctor uniforms, which is funny until you're used to doing it. But you just basically schedule like a 20-minute consultation. And as you can imagine, it's a little hit or miss. Like most of the time it's a hit though. And there's enough smart people around to go, hey, I haven't seen this in a while. Are you up on this? And for the most part, it's profitable time spent and very helpful for me to get sharpened as well. And it was wonderful.
So they have something called as a data village, and that's where all these folks sit, and you can spend some time with them for any of your questions that you have. And there's lots of other stuff going around. There are games that are going around, and networking events going on as well. So pretty nice setup to get your questions answered.
Anyone on the call like to comment? Feel free to unmute yourself. If not, Karan, do you like to share your thoughts?
I think there's one question.
Definitely. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I think, yeah. So the question is, do we need any additional subscription to use Tableau Einstein Copilot if we are Tableau Cloud users? Do you want to take that, or do you want?
Sure. What was I'm sorry, what's
So do we need any additional subscription to use Tableau and Einstein Copilot if we are Tableau Cloud users?
currently no, but it's in beta.
Yeah.
And then we'll see where that goes. But right now, I don't think so. Yeah, so far, like Pulse, like you just turn it on. It's part of the experience.
Yeah. Any other questions, anyone? Okay, I'll maybe hand it over to Karan. Karan, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. And I apologize, I joined a bit late. But yeah, it was great hearing from everybody from the time that I joined in. I think from the takeaways perspective, I think from a technical standpoint, and I kind of always look at it from a technical standpoint versus the other part of the networking, which I think personally, this was my second time around. The first one visiting in person was 2019, and I just started using Tableau in 2018. So this time around, I kind of shifted everything towards meeting more people and less of the sessions. So from a technical perspective, of course, I think Einstein Copilot I'm really looking forward to that. Our organization is always a bit behind the latest version. We work in healthcare, so yeah, we are those people. So, but I'm always looking forward to something new that's coming in. Pulse, of course, and Tableau Public. I think the third one was Tableau Public, where we could now save it locally. That has been one of the things where, in general, Tableau Public is something that I think I have not been able to utilize that much as should be. So I think that flexibility kind of also pushes people to do more on Tableau Public. But apart from the technical perspective, I think the networking part of it was really, just the energy that goes into the data village. I think somebody mentioned, I kind of hunkered down in data village and met everybody, went to the session, and the kind of steps I was doing in those 3 days, I couldn't do a lot more apart from being around the data village. So yeah, I think that's probably the biggest takeaway, where healthcare community meetups and things like that also allow you to kind of share your wins, as well as some of the some of the struggles that you are going through as a healthcare community. For example, I know there were other community meetups. So meeting these people and the ability to just connect with them and follow up with all of these conversations, I think was the biggest takeaway. Yeah.
Nice.
Thank you, Karan. Okay. Everyone, give me 10 seconds. Let me check if the food is here or not. Based on that, let's see if we will do the next session or we will have a 15-minute break.
Can I make a question in the meantime?
Oh, yeah.
So regarding Copilot, I'm very curious in terms of how it feels like saving us a lot of work. I'm not sure like what type of user will benefit most from the Copilot, or in which part of the process when you develop a dashboard it will help you more. Maybe at the end users when they ask questions, or maybe in the development part. Trying to get an idea of where is it that you really need to focus, or maybe in the future some of those tasks will be automated.
So I think right now, it being in a beta phase, it's not customized. So it's not customized, dashboards that you can go ahead and build through Copilot. It's basic, graphs that you can build, or basic dashboarding that you can do through Copilot. It will help you answer your questions directly from the data. So somebody who's at a higher level, who's more interested to, get her hands dirty, and work on the data upfront. I think that's where Copilot is as of right now.
Yeah.
And then it'll keep evolving is what I think.
Yes, and just the simple thing that I think of is Pulse is more for the consumer to ask questions as a consumer. Copilot is more for the builder, the creator to go, oh, how should I arrange this data? How should I think about this kind of visualization? You know, the things that we process while we try to build something. That's the orientation of each.
It's more like an assistant.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
I've seen people ask, the Sankey chart's not giving me the information I need. It can say apply a filter to reduce the amount. So it is definitely helpful. I haven't used it hands-on, but I've been watching a lot of trainings on it when people have been using it for.
I honestly haven't either because it's beta still, so I haven't jumped in myself, but I have
Yeah, I haven't been
done
able
my
to
to-do list.
do research on it,
I will say, just like with any large language model, it's only as good as the prompts you give it. And so like the better your prompts, the better your output.
Yep.
And that's gonna be true for a while for any chat GPT type thing.
That's a good future topic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, prompting, effective prompting. All right, well, it sounds like the food is maybe a little delayed. I'm gonna check with Sherry real quick before I dive in. But if not, I will dive in. Yeah, for example, I'm imagining that one of the challenges is to go through different graphs and getting the insights from there. So that time that you take filter, like clicking on each of the dimensions, so would that be kind of automated with Copilot trying to help you spot things?
Yeah,
or
It'll help you build that basic layer that you want. So we can just type in your question, get that basic layer there, and then you can go ahead and customize it the way you want.
And
So I think that's where.
is it fair
you
to say, so Varun, this is Prem, is it fair to say that the Copilot is available only for the web authoring, not for the desktop?
can-
That's my
Uh,
understanding.
no, it's there for the desktop as well.
It's available for the desktop too?
Yes, but it's still like beta phase. Yeah.
I
Got
think
it.
your question was more about insights, right? If you
Yeah,
want to
but
get
I-
insights out of a bunch of stuff instead of clicking and finding it, is
exactly.
there a rapid way to just grab insights, which I think is wave 4, I think from what he's saying. But, obviously Pulse will give you some of those insights, but the next level of the insights that you didn't see, I think wave 4 will be.
Yeah.
So, you shouldn't have to do anything, right? They do the thing.
Right.
It's the goal.
So I think maybe just adding a little bit point to your, what you said, Prem. I think there is, like you said, there are, like Einstein Copilot has, additional features as well. So there are some that are there for the cloud as well, and there are some for the desktop. So for example, they have something called as Einstein Copilot for Tableau catalog. I think that's something that's there for the cloud. So the chat GPT feature, like type feature that you see is for the desktop.
Pete is chatting that it's for the cloud, but anyway, just pointing it out.
Pete McCullough?
He's saying it's for cloud.
Pete McCullough is my friend. He's the guy who got me to come over here 9 years ago.
All right, I'm going to jump in since the food is a little delayed. My name is Ryan Kreisberg. I'm one of the co-leads of the Baltimore TUG here. I also attended Tableau conference, and I had the pleasure of attending a hands-on session during the conference where we actually built out a Viz extension using the Tableau beta, the pre-release version, 2024.2. So I'm going to go through what a Viz extension is, how it's built sort of theoretically first, so we're all on the same page. And then I'm actually going to get our hands dirty, so to speak, and do an actual build live. No need to follow along on your own computers other than to watch, because I'll be using a variety of tools as I do this. Yeah, we'll play it by ear. So I'm a senior data viz consultant for a company called Clear Intelligence. All right, so our agenda, like I said, we're going to do a quick intro to Viz extensions, what goes into a Viz extension, what are the pieces that it needs. We're going to build a circular bar plot, it's a radial chart, and talk about some resources and have some questions and answers at the end. So for today's training, this is the type of chart we're going to build. We're going to take, for those of you who know what D3 is, it is a JavaScript visualization library that enables all sorts of cool custom things on the web. And as of yet, it was only sort of accessible in the Tableau universe if you made a dashboard extension, which is a slightly different thing and a little more complicated. But we're going to take D3, which is publicly available code, and make a viz extension inside Tableau. So your prerequisites for this, general familiarity with JavaScript. You don't need to be an expert. You should have an idea of which visualization library you might want to use. It doesn't have to be D3, but
Okay.
is the food here?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I haven't actually started per se, and since the food is here, I think we will take our break. Let's go ahead and reconvene here at 6:10 for our full 15-minute break. So at 6:10, I will pick up exactly where I'm leaving off right here. All right, thanks everybody. Talk soon.
Good to see you again.
Hey, good to see you. Yeah.
Likewise.
You're from,
Yeah.
Myself. Yeah, sorry.
Yes. Yes, sir. At your Santos, I work in your company.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. Now I'm my customer success manager.
CSM.
Now, a few months back, technical account manager.
Yeah.
Cloud stuff, yeah.
Awesome. What's your coverage?
I was aligned on the CMT space.
Yeah, I'm in CMT.
We gotta get back.
My Caesar CMT. Very cool. Eli Blinkers, Lauren Smith just went to Enterprise. I know these really exciting. Yes.
Right now, I'm not for everything was a little like too much. So we don't feel like this.
Some people. The people are gonna.
Are you the last presenter?
I think. We tried to get Brian more.
Mhm.
I think we'll get him at the end of the summer. He just doesn't really have anything. Yeah.
You Venmoed Alyssa? So I'm not used to this lighting. It's like.
Yeah. Ryan, hey Ryan, good to see you. See you. Where's the mic?
I'm gonna hide behind Chris.
You can hide behind me.
Fine, I didn't want to know what I was speaking to. Oh, yeah, these are the lines.
They're connected.
Yeah.
You know, smart teaching. You every day?
Yeah, actually go on the line.
How far is your commute?
20 minutes.
That's good. Are you Ellicott City?
South.
Okay, Savannah Park? Savannah Park?
No.
Um,
Kreisberg.
Okay.
So it was quite very first. Okay.
Oh, okay, yeah, I was way wrong.
All right, we're gonna jump back in here. Just a quick recap, if you're just joining us or just turning your brain back on. We're gonna be talking about how to build your own Viz extension and what that might look like for analysts or developers alike. Here's our quick agenda. We're gonna do a quick intro, anatomy. We're gonna build something, talk about resources, do a question and answer. This is actually what we're building today, radial bar chart. Inside of Tableau, this is actually a screenshot. It will look like this. So prerequisites, this is where we left off. A general familiarity with JavaScript. You don't have to be a JavaScript expert. In fact, if you just know generally how to code, that's a good place to start. There's lots and lots of resources on how to script with JavaScript. And a visualization library from JavaScript of choice. D3 is a nice choice because there are so many examples out there and code that you can just use right out the box without having to know exactly what you're doing. The learning curve is not super high. And then today's focus is the Tableau extension API and specifically what it allows for with Viz extensions, allowing you to pull in JavaScript elements directly inside the worksheet. So quick intro. Why are we talking about Viz extensions as something that's useful or powerful? It's a new means to experiment and put innovations out there that we maybe couldn't have done as easily before. Some of the stuff we could have done in the past, we can do currently. It just takes a lot more steps and is what I like to say, very hacky. So requiring Tableau hacks to put some stuff together can be hard, especially if you're maybe trying to deliver something for a client or a stakeholder, and then maybe you move to a different job or you don't have a relationship with that client anymore. The likelihood of that thing breaking eventually and not being able to be put back together is quite high. So this removes some of the hackiness from the equation. And these hacks are not performant either because they usually relied on data densification or complicated techniques that make your data sets quite large or joined together in ways that can just be kind of crazy sometimes. Your options are vastly expanded. If you want to right now on your laptops, you can go to just type into Google D3 Gallery and look at all the different things that people have built. That's the kind of stuff that we're going to be able to do in Tableau quite easily. And we're going to have many sources of this. There's very talented developers out there already who are already doing this and have already been doing it in the past with dashboard extensions. This is just another step towards that sort of ease of use. And it will feel for the user who didn't necessarily make the Viz extension, but it will feel for the user essentially indistinguishable from just using Tableau normally. And so we're going to go through that. It's going to use the drag and drop UI, just like we normally would. So this is where you're going to be able to find Viz extensions. This is the Tableau Exchange. In fact, I have it pulled up for real. Here's the website. The Viz extensions beta has its own section already. Dashboard extensions have existed for a while. And like Varun said, some of the names of the things he was mentioning have existed in the past, like super tables and power KPIs, but they've been redeveloped and developed further into Viz extensions that are going to be even easier to use. This is also where you can find accelerators, which is essentially jumpstart dashboards where you can use them as a jump off point for stuff that you might be building, as well as a bunch of additional data connectors. But the Viz extensions already has stuff in it from folks that have been partnered with Tableau for a while. They got access to some dev tools, and we're going to review some of that in a little bit. These are some examples of stuff that has already been built in Tableau. So we've got a B-swarm chart. There's a bunch of radial stuff that we can do. There's a network chart. Pretty simple thing, but a Venn diagram is something we haven't been able to do before, which is great, and a stream graph in the lower left. So these are really simple to do with these tools. These are drag and drop. So let's talk about how we can build something like this. So what is in a Viz extension? Essentially 3 files. We've got a T-Rex file, which is the file that you actually load into Tableau. And what it does is it calls upon the other resources that you will code, namely the HTML and the JavaScript file that do all the heavy lifting. But the T-Rex file is essentially XML. It describes what the extension is. It registers the extension with Tableau. And there is some additional coding you can do within the T-Rex file to help it sort of encode the data properly. And we'll do an example of that as well. The HTML file is essentially the link between the JavaScript and the T-Rex. It keeps things moving in between. We can do some stuff in the HTML as well, but we won't spend much time there, generally speaking. The example of the thing that we are going to see is the refresh button that this Viz extension has. And then the JavaScript file itself. And so this is where you call the data visualization library. This is where you make all of your linkages from the data to the visualization part. And we can use any library we want as long as it gets back to being JavaScript based is the way that I would phrase that. There are ways that you can use other scripting languages like Python, but you will have to use a tool to essentially translate that to JavaScript. And there are tools that will do that for Python, and I'm sure for other tools as well. Okay, before I move into the nitty gritty and really dive in, are there questions about the structure of Viz extension? Because I'm about to show a lot of code and I'll be doing a lot of clicking. So before we get into that, are there questions? Okay, cool. Let's get into it. So this is straight from the D3 gallery. The code that we're going to use today is actually from this web page. The link is in the bottom left there if you want to go see it. So elements from that code have been adapted into the JavaScript for our actual Viz extension. And so our Viz extension is going to be this circular bar plot. We're going to have these three names as we move through. So again, our three elements that we're going to be using, we just need those three things. All right, so what we're going to do along the way. So we're going to start by adding this example into the Tableau desktop beta version, which I'll have loaded up here on my laptop. We're going to work step by step. So we're going to actually do this in an iterative way where I load it up as we're building, so you can see the progress of how the extension actually evolves as we add code. So we're going to start up a local server to serve up the extension files. That's something you won't need to worry about once it's actually released. I'm going to be using Visual Studio Code to do my editing for all my files. We're going to load that local extension into Tableau, reload it, use the API. As far as building the extension goes, we're going to make the extension responsive to clicking. That's something you have to tell it to do. We're going to do single selecting. Again, something you have to do. These are all things you have to tell it to do. So I'm not going to go through every bullet point, but we're going to cover all these things and all of these things. So we're going to get into interactivity. We're going to get into tooltips and knock it out. So let's do that. So my first step, let's go into my laptop here. So our first step here is we are going to open up and run a local server. So I'm just going, actually I can just copy that. Let's copy that. Boom. Now what I'm going to do now that I have this local server running, this is just a Python server that I can serve this code up on so that Tableau can see it on the appropriate port when I open Tableau. I'm just going to minimize this window so that that server keeps running. Next step, I'm going to make sure my Visual Studio Code is open and open to the correct folder, and it is. If it wasn't, I would click on Open Folder and navigate to my appropriate directory so I can see all my files. Next thing, I'm going to make sure I open up the correct version of Tableau. This one is 2024.2. This is the beta pre-release version. You see that red pre-release there on the opening screen. And I'm going to go straight into opening up a text file. And that text file is going to be batting. So our goal today, we're going to be acting as though we are a data analyst for the San Diego Padres in this case. That's what this stuff is. And your goal is to help the team's leadership understand if there is a correlation between position that someone's playing and their batting average. Simple question, but it'll help us move along here. Okay, great. So we've got Tableau beta, we've got our CSV file, we've got Visual Code open, and we've got our server running. So the first thing we want to do is let's go ahead and add our first Viz extension and see what that looks like. So in my marked card here, I'm going to click into the dropdown, go to the bottom and click on Add Viz Extension. Now we're going to get a familiar view. If you've used the adding dashboard extensions view before, that looks very similar. We'll have different options here built by Tableau, free or sandboxed. That will be relevant after everything's been released. In this case, we're going to click on Access Local Viz Extensions to browse to My Viz Extensions. I will say, though, all those ones I showed you online are already available here for you to play with. So, for example, if I wanted to make a radial Sankey right now, I could. And we can do that at the end if we have time. So I'm going to click on Access Local Viz Extensions. I'm going to go to my desktop. I'm going to navigate to my first Viz extension here. for my circular bar plot and load it up. So you'll be met with an allow message. You're going to get this every time you basically load up an extension. And that's because there are going to be extensions out there that use network capabilities. You need to be careful. This is one of the downsides potentially if you're doing client work. You need to be careful about what data travels through an extension because it isn't necessarily housed directly within Tableau or its servers. You might be touching external servers. Okay, so we have our first Viz extension loaded up, and there's nothing there because we haven't pulled any data to any marks. We see here we've got a height marks card, a detail marks card, and a tooltip marks card. And we know that we have it loaded because it says exercise 2. So let's go ahead and bring out our batting average to height and position to detail. Now, what we might have expected to see here is a Viz show up, right? But what we haven't told Tableau to do is actually refresh when something happens in the program. So we actually have to tell it what to do. So let's go in here to our exercise 2 JavaScript file, and we are going to do this. So what we actually have to do here is inside the event listener part of our JavaScript here is literally tell Tableau to look at the worksheet. So that's this first part here. We're going to look at the worksheet that we're loading the extension into. Then we're going to add an event listener. And what this does is essentially looks for any sort of data change in the window. And when it finds that, when it sees that, it will essentially refresh. And last but not least, we also want, actually, let me save this. We'll refresh and we'll see what that looks like first. And then I will show you that last part. So we'll load back up our extension and we've got something, right? So we've told it to look and listen for data changes, and now we have a basic chart. But let's look at what happens if I resize my window. Not really what we expect or want, right? So we need to also think about all the different types of events that might happen inside Tableau. And so that last little piece there is a window resize listener. So by the way, I've pre-written out all this code because I do not simply have time to type it out. So I'm just uncommenting as I go. But there's essentially a window on resize event, re-render the bar plot. And if I save this and refresh my extension by reloading it, now if I resize my window, you'll see that my chart resizes with it. So again, thinking about these things as we go. So look back at our code just a little bit. Let's look at just the basic structure of the JavaScript real quick. We've got a few pieces that are always going to be here. We've got a call to Tableau, which basically says, hey, we're calling a Viz extension. We have a worksheet call here saying that we want things to happen on the worksheet. So we're accessing worksheet objects specifically. And then on line 27, we have a call to actually get data from the worksheet. Those are the three things that sort of set this apart from any like just D3 JavaScript. We're connecting it to Tableau with those things. Okay, cool. So we've got this visualization, but it doesn't hover. There's no clicking and there's no color. So we're going to start to add all of those things. So let's take a look at my exercise 3 files here. So inside my exercise 3 files, I'm going to look at the T-Rex file. Let's take a look at what that looks like here. This is what the T-Rex XML looks like. Oops. We've got basically the call, the description, the name. This is the name that will show up when you actually load it into Tableau. We've got the source location for the HTML. So it's telling it where to look for all these things and who built it, what it's connecting to, all of that. We've also got encoding for which boxes are actually going to show up on the screen. So by doing this encoding block for height, I'm actually telling it to make a box in the marks card for height. It's going to be a continuous measure or continuous dimension. And I even told it what icon to use using the forecast icon. So we're literally telling it how to draw what is on the screen inside Tableau. And these are all things that you're going to be able to look at in the extensions docs when they're released. They're not currently released. So this is what the T-Rex file looks like. The display name is the main thing for, I wanted us to get a good feel for the encoding, because that when we're developing our own thing, this is how we actually get boxes on the screen. Okay, great. Now let's open up our bar plot file. And so what we want to do is we want to add color, right? So there's two things we have to do. We have to add the color encoding into our T-Rex file, and we have to link that to our JavaScript. So I'm going to uncomment my encoding for color. So like I just said, we want a box for color that we can drop data on. So we have to do an encoding ID for color. My display name is color. And we're just going to drop something on it. That's all we have to do. We tell it that the encoding icon is the color icon. And again, we'll have a list for what all available icons are, I'm sure, in the docs. Okay, that's all we have to do there to get the box showing on the screen. But we have to now tell the JavaScript how to pull that in. So we're going to dig a little deeper first into how things are actually being drawn on the viz. So we're going to look all the way down here at the bars variable. We see that we're using an SVG object to draw, which is very standard for D3. And so essentially we're going to use SVG path elements to do the drawing and coloring for us. And we can also see that the height of each bar is being assigned based on the data being dropped into the height. So you can see the height value based on the data row. So we're telling it exactly how to draw these things. And down at the bottom, we have a bars.attribute, and we're filling it with that default blue just by default. We're going to do a couple things now. We're going to tell it here how to define our color scale, where to get our color, how to assign it, and then how to return it. So our color scale, we are telling it to use the default Tableau 10 color scheme, which we all know very well. We're going to get whichever color by actually looking at the data row that's being pulled into that field. We're going to assign it, and then we're going to return it. And then last but not least, down at the bottom, we're going to assign it dynamically instead of putting that default value. Okay, lots of talking. Let's see what that looks like. If I reload my extension number 3, we should now see, if I drop position on color, a nice and colorful bar plot. And we've got that color encoding here on the screen, which was not there before. Okay, awesome. So that's how we get color in there. Now let's just play a little bit. So I'm going to open up the exercise 4 files just so I can stay on track here with where my notes are. What I want to do now is bring in our radial chart to a dashboard. And let's make a second chart here. Let's put position on columns and batting average on rows. And we'll put position on color just so it matches up as well. And let's pull that out as well. And if I come into my bar chart and use it as a filter, you can see that it is interactive because I already did tell it to look for data change elements. So it is filterable, it's interactive, that works. But it's limited, right? We can't select marks. Hovering is something we definitely want, right? Tooltips, we need selection and we need tooltips. So we've made progress, but we're not quite there yet. And we're definitely going to want to do additional development on the color scheme, that kind of thing. We're keeping it pretty simple today, though. Okay, so let's move on. We're going to add some interactivity now. So let's load up our exercise 5 in here, and we're going to add single selection and tooltips. And so basically what we're going to do is we're going to tell our viz that there needs to be outlines when you click on a selection, that black outline. So what we're going to do down at the very bottom here, this first little bar attribute down at the bottom, we're going to tell it to draw a stroke of black with a width of 0, just around whatever is selected, around the bars. So that one's very simple. Thinking about this and what we need to do, there's 2 things we need to do to select a mark. Select it visually and then tell Tableau to save that selection. So we're going to do that by attaching to the click event that happens in Tableau. So this second batch here, we're going to tell it that on click, these bars on click, we want the target to have a larger stroke around it. And we want it to assign, based on the tuple ID, which rows it's selecting, essentially. So what is the tuple ID? It's a unique identifier for a mark. It's something that you don't necessarily need to ever know unless you're coding like this. But it allows Tableau to understand which mark is being clicked on or interacted with without needing to send specifics about it in any crazy way. The tuple ID is something that Tableau just knows. And then last but not least, we have a hover event that we want to get. So this is going to be very similar. This is going to be a bars on mouse move. So a hover event, meaning your mouse is moving over it. So we're going to do a very similar thing on mouse move. We want it to highlight, essentially. You'll notice that the stroke width is smaller. It's not the 2, it's the 1. We want it to show that it's being highlighted. And then last but not least, on mouse out, we want it to go away. So on mouse out, when our mouse is not hovering, we want to deselect stroke width to 0 and remove the tuple ID from what's being selected. So lots being said here, but we did lots of interactivity in about 20 lines of code, and a lot of those were comments. So not a whole lot that has to be done before we can get some of that interactivity going. So if I come back in here, load up my exercise 5 Trex file and hover, we now see tooltips, and I can click and it is selecting it. You can see that I'm getting the keep only, exclude, view data. So that is indicative of a selection happening. But it's not deselecting or graying out other marks in the view. So that is something that we can do here as well. I'm going to actually, just in the name of time, because I only have about 5 minutes left here, I'm just going to load up what that looks like in the code real quick, and we'll just look at it. And then I'll jump into closing. So down here at the bottom, we can add more on-click events that essentially allow us to reverse or flip the state of tuple IDs that are not selected. And we can do that kind of thing for all the other events as well, mouse move, mouse out. As well as down here, this is adding keyboard functionality for accessibility purposes, something that you should keep in mind, folks. If they do have accessibility issues, they're not using a mouse, they're only using a keyboard, they're still going to want to flip through your viz. So that's definitely something you should always keep in mind. Last but not least, let's look at the Trex file. I wanted to touch on this as well. The Trex file down at the bottom, you can also add resource IDs associated with specific mark types or mark types. So in this case, height, and basically translate depending on your locale, right? So if I set my locale to be Canada or France or whatever, height in the actual little box where you drop in pills will actually translate to the appropriate word. So you can build this in if you're really thinking ahead about how wide this might be distributed. And then last but not least, the HTML file that is associated. Nothing crazy going on here, just loading up the JavaScript and stuff, but we've got that refresh button that does technically live in the upper right-hand corner. That's not on my screen just because of the way I'm zoomed in. But that allows you to just refresh the extension. So the final version with all of those things added looks like this. We've got interactivity. We can click a mark, watch that highlighting happen. We can do multiple selection by using the control key. We didn't build in drag and drop functionality yet. That's something you would also have to do, right? But this would be a really iterative process if you were developing something like this. But you can see how quick it can go. We just spent 25 minutes, and I basically was copy pasting from the D3 website on how to do these things. We've got a couple minutes left. I want to quickly show off some of the extensions that are out there already because they're pretty cool. Let's do a network chart. And I will clear out my viz, my network chart. I've got a source, we'll call it position, target, and we have to put we'll put batting average back on size and just watch it go. So this is one that has been developed a lot more than the one we just did. If you click on format extension, you're going to get a lot more options. That's going to be stuff that you build into the Trex file and the HTML file. This is developed by someone, Tristan is his name. He goes by LawDataViz. He is actually the person who developed the Figma to Tableau plugin and a lot of these initial extensions. So very cool stuff out there. And I think that is a good stopping place. Are there questions out there about any of this?
So as you mentioned, these will be calling kind of like a external server, so we should always check with the IT team whether it's safe to use.
Yes, you reminded me I have more slides. 1 second. All right, let's skip forward just a little here. I'm almost done. I promise. Here we go. So there's extension resources out there already. There's API docs. If you're wanting to think ahead, you could get familiar with D3. It's a good place to start. You can see the bar plot I used today. And things to keep in mind, like Sherry just brought up. This feature's in beta. You should feel comfortable testing and playing, but there's no publicly available docs yet. There actually were docs during the conference, and then they disappeared them after. Some of the same limitations and concerns of dashboard extensions apply here as well. So debugging can be basically impossible if you're not the developer. So something's going wrong and you need it to not be wrong. Good luck. You could try talking to the developer. Maybe you'll get a response. Maybe you won't. If you're developing for a client, making an extension means added complexity and support potentially. So you're going to need to think ahead about building in the support model for something like this. If they have that internally. If they don't, you're probably going to need to document it really well. And using extensions listed on that public exchange, again, might have security implications that you'll need to work through with your IT or with your client, whoever you're working with. Most of the time, custom extensions are being developed because people can't use the public ones. That's one of the main reasons folks make their own in-house. Okay, yeah, that's the end. Cool, other questions? It's really exciting. I'm very excited about this. I've been playing with it, obviously, as you can see. Just the types of stuff you're going to be able to make very quickly is just, it's going to be fun. Like you could spend hours and hours making a chart that I just made, and we did it that quickly. So, and you won't even have to do any of the coding probably because it'll be made for you. Yeah. Any questions out there in the virtual world?
Did you host the T-Rex file on a server?
The T-Rex file is not hosted on a server. The T-Rex file is the thing that you actually load into Tableau.
Okay.
When you're adding the extension in Tableau, it's literally you're clicking on the T-Rex file, and that is what is telling Tableau where is the HTML file, where is the JavaScript. Or no, it's actually just where is the HTML file. And the HTML file tells it where's the JavaScript, essentially. It's the linker. But you do need all three, and there are coding elements in each file that influence the end state of the extension, like we talked about.
And which file was hosted on the server then?
To run the to pull in the JavaScript resources, you need a active connection, so to speak, and that's why that server needs to be running. That won't be the case when it is a fully deployed feature in Tableau, because that would be wild. They wouldn't release a feature like that and expect normal developers to spin up a Python server. But in beta phase, that makes sense.
Do you think this is going to create some kind of a marketplace for this or something, or is that the plan eventually?
To sell, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, just like, will they make
That is already the model. Dashboard extensions are already doing that, right? So there's 3 versions of dashboard extensions. They get their hook in you, whoever's selling them, because it's not necessarily Tableau, right? In Info Topics, I think, is one of the bigger developers. They are actually the ones that developed the Power KPIs and the super tables. They sell those for a lot of money because they are very good at what they do, like you said. But yeah, I'm sure there will be a monetary factor here, but that doesn't mean there won't be free ones. There are always free ones out there. But I guess my actual goal today was to show actually how simple it is. Even at the analyst level, if there's a need, this is accessible, right? I'm not a coder by nature, by the way, but I find this to be very accessible, which is why it's so exciting for me personally. If I needed something that didn't already exist, I could go find it on D3 or wherever and adapt the code and not have to completely learn something new.
I think it adds a lot more flexibility, like the network one. It also have like an animation come with it.
Yeah.
And also like a window that I guess user can put in.
Yeah, you can build in prompts like you saw. You can take advantage of the animation features of D3, which are probably the main reason to use D3 is its transition features that are really nice. It's when we get some talented developers getting their hands on this, it's going to be really cool. Yeah, very exciting.
How easy is it, like if a company has a very particular need, they develop something in-house to publish it out there, or it should be more like they would develop all the 3 files and they just host it within?
Yeah, if you're talking about a solution specifically for one client, sort of a bespoke solution, it probably would not be hosted on the exchange, right? It's something that they paid you for and they want to keep it, which is understandable. Yeah, I doubt that. I doubt there would probably be some internal governance model developed to make sure that folks know how to maintain the 3 files and go from there. Yeah. But I also saw a few like really amazing things at the conference using Python and some really great like write-back apps that use a service called AnvilX, which ties into the Python to JavaScript model, but doing the same stuff, right? Like putting what feels like a web page into the viz itself that the user can interact with and write back to a database and influence the viz on the same screen.
So the write back is actually, I know the write back has always been a challenge. So there's a solution for write back now, or?
There are going to be a lot more in the near future.
Yeah.
I would, if you haven't looked at it yet, I would look at AnvilX. It's really nice, Python based, and it has a graphical user interface for the building part, and it builds a lot of the code for you. And it's actually designed specifically and one of its tools is designed specifically to get back into Tableau really easily.
Super Tables has that functionality as well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Also, like the partnership with Databricks.
Yes,
is
exactly.
for
Yeah.
them too.
The database, like Bricks partnership also gives you that option.
Okay.
Yeah, actually just one more thing to add. I think based on my conversation with, bad remembering names, but,
Enter.
yeah, so it looks like, Einstein Copilot, is going GA 5th of June. So it's not,
Depending on the pods, the deployment or release dates are starting tomorrow through June the 5th.
okay,
First one this week, second one the following week, and wave 3 and 4 will be the June 5th timeframe. And that will bring about some of those Copilot functionality to Tableau Cloud.
so it's not summer or end of summer. It's just a couple of weeks down the lane.
Yeah, so once it get hot, it's summer, so it's already summer.
Okay, as a reminder, if you were one of the three that won our contest earlier, that's Rohit, Vote Goat, and Barefoot Contessa. Make sure you get your email addresses to us somehow, so we can,
Yeah, I have two email addresses. I don't have the last ones. Which what is
Barefoot
it?
Contessa?
Yeah.
Yeah, Barefoot Contessa, if you're out there. Oh, that's okay. Okay.
Give some random.
Okay, great. Cool. Well, thank you so much for coming. If you have questions after the fact, maybe you go home and play with some of this stuff or look at it. Don't be afraid to reach out. You can post on LinkedIn or in our user group. Yeah.
We also have the raffle.
Oh, we also have the raffle.
If anyone last chance to put the ticket in the bag of the gift you like to get. It's all for those on the Teams meeting. That's the.
That's the right way to look at it.
So yes, we're gonna end the Teams meeting now. Thank you everyone virtually for attending.
Really nice session. Yeah.
Mention battle, BIT.
Movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you go to Tableau Exchange, there's a lot.
Without the flag. Yeah, you need two tickets.
I don't know how many of them do sell.
Exactly, yeah, I don't know.
There's one of my.
We have